Imagine a world where your thoughts are not your own. A world where 2 plus 2 isn't 4, unless the people in power say it is. Where history is rewritten overnight, words themselves are redefined, and reality can be bent, twisted, and reshaped like wet clay in the hands of those who rule over you. Imagine living every single day under the gaze of an all-seeing eye, one that knows where you are, what you're thinking, and even what you're about to think. Now imagine that in this world, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength, and war is peace. Sounds insane, right? A nightmare too ridiculous to ever happen? Well, buckle up, because this isn't a horror story from some faraway universe. It's closer to home than you think. And the worst part? It's not just a story. Our story unfolds in a place called Oceania. Basically, present-day England if it were run by a paranoid government that's allergic to the concept of privacy. Society here has been stripped of its humanity and handed over to politics. Every decision, every fact, every thought is controlled by a single figure. The all-knowing, all-seeing, never-dying Big Brother. Big Brother isn't just a leader, he's a godlike presence. His face is plastered everywhere. His slogans are drilled into people's heads from birth, and his power? Absolute. He doesn't just rule Oceania, he defines it. And how does one man manage to control millions of people? Simple. Control what they read. Control what they know. Control what they remember. In Oceania, facts aren't facts. They're whatever Big Brother says they are. If he says 2 plus 2 equals 5, well, congratulations. You just became really bad at math. If he says there's a bumper harvest even when your dinner plate is emptier than a politician's promise, then guess what? The harvest was great. Even the language you speak isn't safe. Big Brother's government, known as the Party, has invented a new language called Newspeak. It's designed to get rid of words that could encourage rebellious thoughts. No words, no dissent. And if you can't describe the past, you can't miss it. If you can't name freedom, you can't demand it. The key to surviving this nightmare is something called doublethink. It's the art of believing two contradictory things at once, and not just pretending to believe them, but truly believing both. The party's slogans proudly proclaim, "War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength." If that sounds like nonsense, congratulations, you're still sane. But for the people of Oceania, nonsense is reality. Here's how doublethink is described.
To know and not to know, to be conscious of complete truthfulness while telling carefully constructed lies, to hold simultaneously two opinions which canceled out, knowing them to be contradictory and believing in both of them, to use logic against logic, to repudiate morality while laying claim to it, to believe that democracy was impossible and that the party was the guardian of democracy, to forget whatever it was necessary to forget, then to draw it back into memory again at the moment when it was needed, and then promptly to forget it again.
Confused? Good. That means you're still thinking for yourself, which is exactly what the party doesn't want.
We're gonna die!
And if you're caught stepping out of line, you're not just arrested, you're taken to the ironically named Ministry of Love, where you'll be re-educated, a fancy term for torture, or sent to hard labor at a place called Joy Camp, which is about as joyful as a dentist appointment without anesthesia. Our main character, Winston Smith, knows this system better than anyone. He works at the Ministry of Truth, where his job is to correct historical records, basically, to lie for a living. Newspapers, books, speeches, all rewritten to match whatever version of reality the party wants people to believe today. If the party says they've always been at war with Eastasia, then history is adjusted accordingly. Yesterday's enemy is today's ally, and no one bats an eye. But Winston isn't fully brainwashed. He remembers life before the revolution, a world with freedom, individuality, and memory. and he's desperate to hold on to that sliver of truth. He secretly hates the party and dreams of rebellion. And then he falls in love. Her name is Julia, and she hates the party too. Together, they break the ultimate law. They dare to think and feel for themselves. They rent a secret room, share forbidden ideas, and fantasize about revolution. It's romantic, rebellious, and utterly doomed. Because in Oceania, the walls have ears, and eyes, and microphones. So Winston and Julia are caught by the thought police, betrayed by a man named O'Brien, a high-ranking party member who had pretended to be part of a resistance. But, well, he wasn't. He was bait. Winston is dragged to the Ministry of Love, where he's tortured until he's broken, and I mean not just physically, but mentally too. The final stage of his re-education is Room 101, where each prisoner faces their worst fear. For Winston, it's rats. And under that unbearable terror, he betrays Julia. By the end of it all, Winston isn't a rebel anymore. He's a hollow shell of a man who loves Big Brother. The party has won, because they don't just want obedience, they want your soul. This chilling tale is, of course, George Orwell's 1984, a dystopian masterpiece published in 1949, but set in a not-so-distant future. Orwell called it fiction, but let's be honest, this isn't just a story, it's a prophecy, and one that's disturbingly accurate. What Orwell did in this novel was to take the ideologies he saw around him, socialism, communism, fascism, Nazism, and push them to their logical conclusion. He lived through 2 world wars, countless revolutions, and ideological conflicts that tore the 20th century apart. And he asked one chilling question: what happens if power becomes the only goal? The result is a world where truth is whatever those in power decide it is, where language itself is manipulated to limit free thought, where people are controlled not just by fear, but by their very perception of reality. And while Orwell was warning us about totalitarian regimes, here's the twist. The world he imagined hasn't disappeared. It's just evolved. Today, totalitarianism wears a different face. It doesn't always come from a dictator in a military uniform. Often, it's hiding behind the polished smile of a CEO. Corporations have become our modern-day big brothers. They fund political parties on both sides. They write policies, shape laws, and control the flow of information. They decide what's true and what's fake. They feed us narratives, discredit dissent, and manipulate public opinion with algorithms and targeted content. If you don't believe their version of reality, you're labeled a crank, a conspiracy theorist, a modern-day Winston Smith. We're told wars are for peace, that surveillance is for safety, that censorship is for our own good. Sound familiar? That's doublethink. It's the same twisted logic that makes a peace-loving country start wars abroad while preaching human rights. It's the same mindset that calls mass surveillance protection. It's why, in some places, torture is still used, even by countries that helped write the laws against it. Today, Big Brother doesn't just watch. He tracks your searches, reads your emails, listens to your phone calls, and follows your every move. Your data is the new telescreen. And just like in the novel, the world is divided into 2 types of people: those who serve the system and those who question it, the enemies who must be silenced. As Orwell put it,
In our societies, those who have the best knowledge of what is happening are also those who are furthest removed from seeing the world as it is. In general, the greater the understanding, the greater the delusion. The more intelligent, the less sane.
So who was the man behind this prophetic warning? George Orwell was born Eric Arthur Blair in 1903. He was a journalist, essayist, critic, and one of the most important political thinkers of the 20th century. His life spanned an era of immense upheaval: 2 world wars, the rise and fall of fascism and communism, and the dawn of the Cold War. Orwell wasn't just an observer, he was a participant. He fought in the Spanish Civil War. He witnessed colonialism firsthand in Burma. And he devoted his life to exposing how language, propaganda, and power can destroy freedom from the inside out. His works, especially Animal Farm and 1984, are not just novels, they're warnings. And they remain as relevant now as they were when he wrote them, maybe even more so. 1984 isn't just a book, it's a mirror. A dark, uncomfortable mirror that forces us to look at our world and ask some hard questions. Who's controlling the narrative? Who's rewriting history? And are we truly free, or just convinced that we are? Orwell didn't write this story to scare us. He wrote it to wake us up. And if we're paying attention, we'll realize that Big Brother isn't coming. He's already here. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.